So I recently put out a video explaining all of the ways that you can get a second citizenship in 2021 in great detail. You can watch that video on our YouTube channel. And while there are typically a number of ill-informed comments from armchair expats, there was one in particular that I wanted to respond to. And today I'm going to debunk the debunking of my ways to get second citizenship video. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. I'm the author of the book Nomad Capitalist on Amazon, the founder of the company Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. And you can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. So there are a number of ways to get a second citizenship, and I think the last year and a half or so has really shown why it's so important to not be tied to just one government. We've got a lot of content out there about just why you need a second citizenship and all the opportunities to get one. But I wanted to share with you one particular comment and go through someone who said they're debunking what it is that I'm talking about. Now, it's obviously easy for the many people who trade off of our name. They set up Nomad this or that. They hide behind a veil. They're not public. They're not out there for many years as I have been. And so they and their 33 subscribers, they're trying to grow their 33 subscribers by posting stuff. Not that I don't mind the critique, but they usually do so in a very nasty way. And so just as a quick adjunct, if you want to know why we work with 7 and 8 and sometimes 9 and 10 figure entrepreneurs, it's on a personal level, you don't get a lot of nastiness and hostility from them because they've been through business. And while we certainly do make mistakes from time to time, they don't want to go out there and really rub your face in it. So here's the comments, which, by the way, here's the comment about how my video is debunked, and I'm going to explain why I think it is inaccurate. So when it comes to citizenship by descent, which is the process of getting second citizenship from your parent or great-grandparent or grandparent or great-grandparent, or sometimes, rarely, even further back, I said this. Always look at that. Grandparents, great-grandparents, you can go further back. Obviously, a lot of European countries, people have ancestors from there. You could qualify. Now, this has become slower in 2021 and last year as well because of COVID, where even some of the faster countries like Ireland are really dragging their feet on processing these. So if you're looking for a second passport in 6 to 12 months, which is the most asked for time frame when people are coming to me right now, is 6 to 12 months, then that may not work. And it really never worked for a lot of the programs like Italy or Hungary or Poland, which often have snags attached. Some people spend 3, 4, 5, 6 years gathering documents and going through the process to get this. So if you're in a hurry, it may not be what you want, but it might be a nice kicker to add on to a passport you get first. Maybe you get a lesser quality passport through another method and add this one on later, or you're not in a hurry. And so the commenter, who will remain nameless, said, let me debunk a few things here. First was about citizenship by descending. You'll see that the English in this comment isn't so great. It can take from 2 years, if you're lucky, up to 8 years. That's on the case to case, he says. I'm reading this exactly as it is. And so nothing so far that's really being debunked. I have said that in the past, pre-COVID, there were a few programs where you could get this done in 6 months or 12 months. Sometimes that would be through a parent where there wasn't a lot of paperwork to gather. What I have said about citizenship by descent is the hardest part is gathering the paperwork. We have at times offered a service where we help people go through the paperwork, get lawyers on the ground involved, go through archives. And people are always confused, like, well, why would I pay up front until you're sure I qualify? Because once you're sure you qualify, the process is really, really easy in most cases. It is the proving that you qualify and making sure in the process of that is most difficult. And so the entire process for a parent could take 6 months. However, I did say that that process is generally a little bit slower now. I've never seen one take about 8 years, but certainly some have, like Italy, have historically taken 3 or 4 years for some people. Hungary and Poland have hardly been walks in the park either. There are some other ones. However, we've gotten people Estonian citizenship, for example, in under a year. Mexican citizenship in under a year, other Latin American and European ones. So the process doesn't have to take that long, but indeed, especially now during COVID, there's no money in it for the government. Citizenship by descent has slowed down. And generally, if someone comes to me and says, I need a second passport immediately, let's say I want to give up my citizenship, I just need it for some reason right away, I'm generally going to say, let's do something else. And if you have a citizenship by descent, let's pursue that for later. Debunking number 2, marriage, spelled with 1 R. This one is going to get a lot of people mad, he says. Women can get their PR, parentheses, citizenship, that way. So let's debunk the debunker that permanent residence, PR, and citizenship are not the same thing. Permanent residence sometimes lead to citizenship. Sometimes it is a criteria that is required in order to obtain citizenship. Sometimes it is a status that you can obtain instead of citizenship, but they are absolutely not the same. The commenter continues, guys, ain't gonna happen. All of my friends who tried it that way all got denied. Now, if you're looking at perhaps a country in the Middle East, this may be true. However, if you're looking at countries in most of the rest of the world, that's simply false. So let me give an example. And I've seen both men, both opposite-sex couples and same-sex couples who have been married to French citizens. We've had a couple of these over the last 2.5 years, and they've both successfully been able to obtain French citizenship through marriage. Both men, both successfully obtained it. There are other examples. If you look, you can, in most countries, it doesn't make a difference if you are a man or a woman, so that's simply untrue. Now, obviously, you shouldn't go out and find someone to marry just because you want to get a citizenship. We've also talked about countries that often offer instant citizenship or very quick citizenship without having to live there through marriage if you happen to find someone. And again, I can tell you from firsthand, watching people and seeing cases experience, it is possible for men. Number 3, citizenship by investment will only give you a permanent residency! So again, confusion, which is not uncommon, about what is the difference between temporary residence, permanent residence, tax residence, and then citizenship. So citizenship means you are a full citizen, you are entitled to go there whenever you want, you don't have to have a passport, but generally you would like one to be able to travel, and you are entitled to a passport. And so citizenship by investment is just that. It is citizenship. You look at the Caribbean countries, those are citizenship. Now he says, only the Caribbean countries, with an A in the middle, are all citizenship by investment. Note, opening an account in a foreign country is not as simple as he says. Hey Andrew, try opening a bank account in France. Wish you luck in advance. So we transition from citizenship by investment will only give you permanent residence, which is false. We're confusing terms. Only the Caribbean, all citizenship by investment. Not sure what that means. And then we shift to only opening an account in a foreign country is not as easy as you say. Yes, opening accounts in banks in foreign countries has become more difficult. We've been talking about that for years in the sense of you want to get an account as a tunnel if you have the opportunity. We are constantly looking at bank accounts in very far-flung places with the idea that you could go there and put $100 in the account and just keep it because oftentimes you're grandfathered in. Now, in the case of France in particular, never tried to open an account in France, wouldn't really want an account in France. And so, yes, very difficult to have, and quite frankly, very difficult for a number of people who actually live in France or French expats that I've spoken with over the years. So not really an ideal place to bank, even if you could get an account. How that correlates with citizenship by investment, there are plenty of investment opportunities where you can work yourself towards a second passport, either immediately, such as the CBI programs we talked about in not only European countries, the Caribbean, others, as well as programs where you can work towards a fast track, programs like a golden visa, programs where you start a business. The list is endless, quite frankly. List number 4 is naturalization. Come on, man, 5 years for citizenship is the best case scenario in terms of naturalization. So again, simply not true when it comes to naturalization, which is the act of going and putting down roots, getting a residence permit, potentially spending some time, maybe learning the language. Every country has different parameters. And so naturalization in a Western country, the US, Canada, Germany, these are historically pretty difficult. They're not very tax friendly. They require a lot of time, so you have to change your lifestyle. So those are very difficult. However, there are countries, what we call paper residency, where you can get a residence permit and without a lot of time on the ground, work towards second citizenship in 3 years. And so when I look at one particular programs we don't always talk about in the channel because we offer value to the people who work with us, is 3 years and about 7 months for the application to actually be approved was the last one we looked at. So you're looking at about 3 years plus another 7 months. And so in that case, yes, there is always going to be a timeline in terms of how long do you have before you can apply for citizenship under a naturalization scheme, and then the actual application. One of the things I've complained about in years past when it comes to, for example, Spanish citizenship by descent, or the Spanish program where you can move there for 2 years and get a fast track, is that the processing time simply takes a long, long time. And that's just one example of where it can be quite slow. However, there are other countries where it can be relatively quickly. Now, 5 years, as I said, translator with you. So there are ways that in 2, 3, 5 years, you can get citizenship with minimal time. Perhaps one of the better known examples of that is the Portugal Golden Visa program. 5 years is a good benchmark. My belief is that the European Union has made a soft criteria perhaps that says its member states need to have a 5-year or longer timeline for naturalization. Belgium, up until probably 6 years ago or so, had a 3-year timeline, which didn't always work. They had different timelines, but 3 years was the shortest. Now that no longer exists. And yes, in most developed countries where people think of naturalizing, 5 years is going to be the criteria. However, there are others that are 2 years, that are 3 years, that are 4 years. A lot of those would be in South America, but you can also find some of those in non-EU Europe. And so that's something that you can look at is what's the criteria before you apply. And I've said historically, in terms of when you can apply, doesn't mean that you're going to get it because the application timeline matters. However, in some of these cases, we've seen it take as little as 6 or 7 months. If anyone wants to get a real-life game plan with some skills, can execute, look up on the videos you post. We looked, and there were really no videos of any significance. So there's my debunking of our video. Here's the thing. Obviously, a lot of you have been watching us for a long time. We put out over 1,300 videos. We don't always get it right, but we try and get it right as often as possible. This stuff is constantly changing, but here's what I know. I watch people doing this stuff in real life every day. A lot of people sit around, a lot of people see what we're doing, they want to get in on it, and they go out and they start talking about stuff that we execute, hundreds of cases in this stuff. We have a network of people all around the world where we get access to their case flow and their deal flow. We look and see what's happening. That's the perspective that I come from. And this is not the first time someone has said I'm wrong over the years by any means. There's been people who said, you could be naturalized in Uruguay, for example, quite easily, when I was one of the first people who said, no, it's not really working for nomad capitalist types. And so I believe, in that situation, I continue to be correct that Uruguay, not a very good place to go and not establish ties and become naturalized. So there's been things where I've said to nomad capitalists, this doesn't work for you, that may be different from what the average person is thinking. And I think it's always important to look at things from your own point of view, especially if you're a 7 or 8 figure entrepreneur, and especially if you're a nomad capitalist doing things differently than the average person. So people ask, Andrew, how do I get the most out of Nomad Capitalist? How do I begin my Nomad Capitalist journey? The first thing people do is they start right where you're at. They watch YouTube, they listen to podcasts, they read articles at nomadcapitalist.com. We've spent years creating thousands of pieces of free content so that you can get the vibe from someone who's actually done this, from someone who's actually been in your shoes. What they'll do next, they'll get a copy of the book. You can find it on Amazon. It costs a few bucks, and while it's not going to give you all the secrets, it's going to, again, give you more of the vibe. You're going to learn a lot of the things that I've learned. You're going to learn some strategies you can employ, and you're going to get a lot further in your journey. From there, if you are the 7 or 8 figure entrepreneur investor, you can go to nomadcapitalist.com. You can click Become a Client. We're pretty busy these days, but we have availability to help a limited number of people who want to create a holistic plan, something that I think is so important. So if you want to do that, go to nomadcapitalist.com, click Become a Client, learn more about how it works and how we can help you.